Kia ora team, Noel Willoff here, host of the Beyond the Surface podcast. We got a bit of a different background and setup today because we're hosting at Sharesies HQ with the co-founder and 3 CEO, Brooke Roberts. Just a reminder, if you want to continue to support the show so we get more of the guests on that you love, please make sure to check out our official sponsor of the podcast, whanau. They're the official wooden sunnies company, got a whole range of awesome sunnies and products on their website. Make sure you go check it out at whanau.co.nz or in the link in the description below. Thanks so much. Hope you enjoyed this conversation. Welcome to episode number 37. Cool. Brooke, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for hosting. I was just saying earlier, this is like the most flash podcast studio. We were expecting to head into like a sterile sort of boardroom, but you've got your own podcast set up at Sharesies HQ.
Yeah, it is pretty rad because we do have our weekly podcast, the shared lunch and a few other things. Yeah. So it's been pretty handy.
That's awesome. Hey, I was really keen with this interview. Just to say a massive thank you, because I think what you've achieved through Sharesies, you've enabled me to have my first actual conversation with my mates around finance.
Cool.
And so I'm sure you realize like how big Sharesies is now with, like over 500,000 users. But I think I'm really interested to see what's going to happen through your work for the next generation. And there's been so many times where I've been at parties with my mates and we're like showing our Sharesies portfolio, like having no idea what we're talking about, but it's enabled us to actually talk about finance, which There's no way we would ever talk about that without having a platform like Sharesies. So I just want to say thank you.
Oh, that's so awesome to hear. It's funny as a founder, I feel like you're always living in the past. Like all I see is like the road ahead of us and there's so much more to go. So it's really cool to hear that story and that people are getting together and having conversations about money now. That just was so taboo when we started. People didn't talk about, or they didn't even think they could be an investor, and to have those conversations and those friends like talking about that and sharing insights, what a richer world we'll live in.
100%. And where do you sort of see, I guess, the potential with a new generation coming through who are now investing is almost normalized, I say, almost through Sharesies because it's so accessible. It's almost like online shopping, which I know as a part of the design was really integral for you guys. Where do you sort of see the potential where Sharesies could sort of end up and around sort of financial literacy over the next sort of 20 to 30 years?
Yeah, I mean, from a Sharesies perspective, we're really building out a wealth app. We want to be the place where, people grow wealth, and that means that they can, invest, save, have the Kiwi Saver, and also protect their wealth with, insurance and things like that to make sure that, they can weather the storms. So we're building out a full wealth app at the moment, and that's a big change since, just starting with investing. And so there's a lot of opportunity in Sharesies to make sure. There's just so many financial products out there that are quite opaque and hard to understand or to know if it's right for you. And we want to just really design that experience from the ground up. Like you said, online shopping, why can't money just be really easy to understand and really accessible and enable, people to get the opportunities that they really want to have in their life or in their community?
Yeah.
And so it's so exciting to see that, people now will grow up. My kids even, there's tens of thousands of kids on Sharesies who just have investing as just part of their normal conversations, and
100%.
how, that'll just really improve our financial capability and our, and I hope, more equity when it comes to being able to develop wealth in the future.
That's so true. And I've got a 9-year-old daughter, and I was speaking to her about Sharesies, and I need to set her up on the platform, but even getting her head around it, I was like, what sort of things are you into? Me and my partner were talking to her about, and she was like, I like Disney. I like, I like the movies. We're like, cool, we could like invest in things you're sort of passionate about. And it's a cool way to get kids to even start thinking about investment as well.
Before you leave, I'll print off this thing called Bank of Kid, which are these like 3 activities you can do. I think they'll be still all good for a 9-year-old, but there are ways that you can have help have fun around having these conversations with kids about, Disney and tracking that over the month, or how they split up pocket money. And so I'll flick that to you. You can tell me if it's at the right level for a 9-year-old.
Yeah, awesome. No, Well, I'll put that in front of Kyla.
We're not a bank, by the way. It's just a little play on the term.
So Brooke, when you first started Sharesies 7 years ago, can you talk about, you got, is it 6 different co-founders? Can you talk about how the first sort of conversation arose and how you actually found your group of co-founders around the idea of Sharesies at the time?
Yeah. There are 6 of us that founded Sharesies. So each of us have our unique story, I guess, in terms of how that came about. So all I can really share is like my perspective of it. But, Sonia and Layden and Richard and Martin and Ben will have their perspective of how it came together. The commonality is we all really wanted to start a business, and we all saw opportunity in with technology available today, that there's just no reason that someone with $5 and 5 million can't have the same money opportunities. Like there's a massive opportunity there, and that was really rife for to create something. Sonia had the initial idea behind Sharesies. She was like, I want to be able to. I wish $50 could be meaningful. I wish I could invest it. I wish I could grow it over time. And at that time, there's a lot of media about millennials spending their money on smash avocado, and that's why they couldn't get into housing. And it really felt hard for people to get ahead, and it still feels like that today for a lot of generations coming through too. So how could we make investing more accessible? And also, do people want to be an investor? So we spent 6 months doing pure customer research and just talking to people, and from that felt like the risk of not doing it was greater than doing it, because we'd had all this insight. Was like, actually, this is our life work. We have to make this happen. We have to change the trajectory for people, and that's what we're set out to do.
Through that research with everyday people around Sharesies and investing, what sort of key insights did you get? I think I listened to a podcast that you did, and you mentioned that people weren't even entirely sure that KiwiSaver was investing. So really interested to hear what sort of insights did you hear that sort of validated the concept of Sharesies?
Yeah, I mean, we heard a lot of whakama, like kind of worry that they were doing things wrong, and shame around money. We heard a lot around, KiwiSaver, like, I thought there was a savings account at Kiwi Bank, like the really low understanding of where the majority of their money was. And I don't really put that on people. Like, it's really the system around it and the way that people have been left out. And we boiled it down to 3 things really, which was people felt priced out, like they needed tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands to be an investor, or they felt jargoned out, like they needed to have a degree in finance and be watching the markets all the time and, buy, sell, buy kind of mentality. And then the third, ultimately left out, like they felt like investing wasn't something for them. And even if they were investing, it just was still hard. Like it was still really a chore. And so we set to eliminate all of those barriers. So with Sharesies, you can invest however much you want when you want. There's no minimum. We use everyday language, and we're also not like, where there is terminology that people need to know, we make sure that's really clear and that they can understand that, and do a lot in their education space. And then ultimately create a platform where people feel like it is for them, no matter if you're just getting started, or you've been investing for ages, or if you've got a few dollars to multi-million dollars. Like, we're the place where you can develop wealth.
And who do you specifically target Sharesies towards? I guess it's an app, and it's a platform for everyone, right? It's not targeted to a specific demographic. Like, you're quite a broad sort of marketing approach.
Exactly. And that's kind of freaks out quite a few people sometimes, in terms of like, so who is the target? And it's like, actually, we want everyone. We want to create financial empowerment for everyone. So we have people from 0, like literally as soon as they get their birth certificate with their ID number, to 97 years old on our platform.
Wow.
We've got people who have a few dollars in their portfolio, to people with multi-million dollar portfolios. And we really want to be that place where everyone can develop wealth, no matter their experience, no matter the amount they have, and not create like a different class of investor or whatever. And with KiwiSaver, we really want to make sure that people feel connected and in control of that, and know where their money's going, because that is where the majority of people's wealth sits. And when you're investing, and when you've got money in KiwiSaver, you're pretty much voting with your money on the future you want to create. So are you aware of the companies you're investing in, or how your fund manager is investing? And we really want to make sure that stuff is super simple and easy, so people can feel really proud of how their money is working for them right now. Yeah,
that's incredible. And I just love sort of changing the face of what a standard investor looks like. Like, if you were to get the 14-year-old me from the street, and said, like, what is an investment? I would be so lost. I'd think it's, just people in suits. And I just feel like changing that demographic is such a great thing, to know that like everyone else can, regardless of how much money you have, you can still put money and you can still buy shares, and step into sort of more financial empowerment. So,
and that's helped unlock those conversations when people are like, actually, you might have hundreds of thousands of dollars and I might have a few dollars, but we can still both have a conversation about investing. It's not about how much money. It's about, oh, do you know what's happening in the economy over there? Or have you seen what this company's doing? Like, that's so cool for people to be connected to what's happening in the world around them, and then seeing how that connects to their money and the opportunities around them too.
What was your first, I guess, like aha moment when first starting up Sharesies? Obviously, you had a massive first 7 weeks with 10,000 users jumping onto the platform. But was there a particular moment where you thought, "Oh shit, this is real"?
There's so many micro moments along the way. I think, even the first one, when the 6 of us founders were like, "Yep, let's do this." You're like, "Oh, it's real." We've quit our jobs. It's real. We're going full in on creating Sharesies. There's so many moments that add to that. But one, I think, was before we even launched Sharesies, we already had a wait list of people wanting access. And that was just from the conversations we've had. We created a website saying, you can sign up and we'll let you know when it goes live. And, we had quite a few thousand customers just then. We didn't have marketing budget. We had, it was just this word of mouth. And then once we're like, that's fine, that's really exciting, but proof is going to be in the pudding if we've got product market fit. And once we started seeing people referring people onto Sharesies and like loving the experience and sharing it with their people and their community, that is when you're like, okay, we are on something. There's product market fit here. People are referring their friends and loving the experience. And that is the ultimate dream in terms of making sure that you are creating something that really is meaningful to people and adding value to their life.
Yeah. And with 6 different co-founders, how did it work initially? Because I think setting up something like an investing platform is so much more complex than starting a t-shirt company. You know what I mean? Did you guys have experience in sort of financial markets and technology? What are those first steps that you guys took as a group of co-founders in actually making this a reality?
Yeah, honestly, without us all, it would have been incredibly difficult to create Sharesies. We needed, top developers, incredible developers to be able to create this kind of new concept and bring it to life. So we're really fortunate to know Martin and Richard, who are exceptional technical co-founders. We needed to be able to connect with people and make sure people didn't feel left out and create a really beautiful, lovable experience. So having Ben, our chief designer and co-founder, was crucial. It's like so crucial to the success of Sharesies. And Leighton, Sonia and I, who are the 3 EOs too of Sharesies, so we share the co-CEO role.
So cool.
We had really interchangeable skill sets, but also really strong strengths in different areas too, which enabled us to really create the commercial side of Sharesies and the customer experience angle and the finance and the real business side of what you need to do when you create a company. And so really, really fortunate that we had that mix. But then we also needed support too. We, needed legal support, and we're in a highly regulated industry. And I'd worked in investing before, so I knew enough to know we needed more support there, and so did Leighton and Sonia. We were really fortunate by starting here in Pōneke, Wellington, where we had a community of other entrepreneurs and other people that just like to pay it forward and support us. And honestly, the support you get and asking for support, throughout has been really important too. So
I think especially in New Zealand, and in Wellington particularly, and actually just in New Zealand in general, I feel like people almost undervalue how accessible everybody is. We have such a good culture in New Zealand where I feel like for the majority of people, you can simply reach out and ask to grab a coffee, or to jump on the podcast, like a cold email or a message on LinkedIn. I think that's how I first connected with you. And people are willing to, with the generosity of their time, spend an hour with you and sort of help you out. So really curious to know, have you had any like really integral mentors throughout this journey that stand out for you?
Like my mind is racing with so many names.
Mm.
I have to call out our two independent directors, Alison Gary and John McDonald. They have been incredible mentors and support and drivers for us, and they've been with us since really really early on. So they've been incredible in terms of just ensuring we're leveling up, and just the support they provide us and the way that they think and how that challenges our thinking has been really impactful. Paul Williams, who was our first finance person, and he would always wear the black hat, which is quite hard when you're got the founder optimism, but it was really important for us to really stress test our thinking in terms of our business model, and and also just so much smarts and experience he brings with his background from Xero and others. It was really helped us on the way and opened doors for us a lot too. Honestly, there's so many that I feel funny pulling out names, but also Kirsty McTaggart, who is an advisor for us, is just so exceptionally smart and really helps us understand the wider world around us that we operate in too. So I can't even begin to list them. No, multiple. Honestly, it's pretty remarkable, the support we've got.
It's amazing. Throughout the journey and process, because it's crazy to think Shareises is only 7 years old, has there been any moments throughout that process where you felt like throwing the towel in?
I think someone told me an entrepreneur is somebody who's got innate confidence with a perpetual belief that they could be wrong. And I think that's quite interesting because I also kind of like that because I think an entrepreneur, like you're always, or a business owner, right? Even, like the same thing. You're always, you know the vision, you know where you want to go, you can see it. But you also don't know what you don't know. And so you're always curious about new information and how that could maybe make you change tack or make you think differently or pivot or whatever it might be. So it's quite an interesting kind of mindset to be in. So in saying that, I don't know if I've ever thought of like throwing in the towel, but I've definitely had times to, where you question, go, am I still the best person for this? And then you go, yep, we still are, and us as founders, we get together every year and we have that conversation. We're like, how are we going? Are we, are we bringing the best energy? Are we still all in this? And every year it becomes like more and more so in a way too. So like, I think that's something it's important to check yourself on that.
Yeah, that's good. Do you put much pressure on yourself?
I have, and I do. And actually since becoming, I learnt, I've got a 6 and a 4-year-old. And so ever since creating Shareises, I've also been growing a family and growing in myself, like figuring out how to parent and stuff. And so I learnt pretty early on, okay, the only way this is all going to work is if I lower my expectations. And I know it sounds so demotivating, but like it's been really important to go, I used to think I had to tick everything off in a day. Like, have I been really present as a mum? Have I nailed my job? Have I, gone for a big run? Or have I gone for a surf? Like everything had to happen in a day. And I just was like, what if I expanded that time? Like, what if that, have I been there for my friends, It's like, what about if that is over a week or over a month? And just realize, like, I used to think this was like an ultra marathon, you just got to dig in. And it's true, but it's also a series of sprints and you have that time for like rest and recovery. So knowing when you're sprinting and then other things are falling aside and that's your key focus, or knowing when, hey, you're getting a bit of respite here. So like make the most of that too, and before you set yourself up for the next sprint. So I think that's been quite an important mentality because this is it is all encompassing and I absolutely love that. But making sure that at the end of the day, I'm really proud of how I've spent my time. Like the most valuable asset in life is time. So am I proud of how I'm spending that? And if I am, then that's a win.
Yeah. Hats off to you. It's super tough raising a family. And it's also, I can imagine, super tough running a $500 million enterprise. So that is incredible. When it comes to, I guess, like your sort of daily routine or what a standard week looks like, have you got any particular rituals or routines that you put in place to support your mental health or just to provide you better clarity professionally and personally?
Yeah, so I've got this inner monologue, and I've always had it, which I hate routine. I don't like routine. Like, I like spontaneity. I like being in the moment. And so that's something that's quite hard when you've got a family, especially young children, and they need that routine. And that's, well, I find anyway for mine, they like that. So I've had to kind of trick myself into enjoying elements of routine.
Okay.
And so there's a few things I do. One is I try and keep my mornings free as possible, because I know, like, overnight I'll percolate on something, I'll wake up and I'll have so much energy to just throw at something. So it's probably not good to just throw that at a person I'm meeting with or whatever. It's good to like get out of my head all of the things I was thinking, you know, make sure the team are aware, set up new meeting, whatever it might be, but do that thinking and get that out of my head. So keeping my mornings clear is quite an important element of me being able to turn up well for everybody else and be the best for Sharesies. Another one I've done recently is I've got the Adams app from James Clear. He wrote Atomic Habits. And there's a few things that I do believe consistency over time pays off, and I know that's true. So having a routines and habits around things that I want to get better at is something that I've set up with the Adams apps. I've got 3 goals at the moment, and I try to do them every day. And, you know, the app makes it kind of easy to keep track and keeps me accountable. And I find that really helpful. It's like where it doesn't feel routine, but it also is, because I'm trying to do it every day, but it doesn't have to be at this certain time. Because again, it's at that expectation side, and just lowering that. It's like, it'll happen today. But when, you know, I'll find out. And in terms of routine, I've been way more disciplined over the last year and a half on incorporating exercise into my days or weeks.
Cool.
And
what's your exercise of choice?
Well, since late last year, I've really got into surfing.
Epic.
So before that, it was always running pretty much. But now if there's good waves, like yesterday, I was out there twice, because I was like, you know, you just got to, when it's humming, you just got to like make the most of it.
100%.
And that kind of takes priority over running if the, you know, waves are good. I'm out there.
Water-based therapy. It's
it's so good.
I've been trying to, like, I've only been out probably like 5 times. But whenever I'm out there, I could, if I'm out in like Lyle or Titahi Bay, because I'm a totally shit surfer. I'm literally just like floating on my board, face planting. But I feel cool
getting pummeled.
Because I'm hanging out with some surfers, and I feel like I look the part. But you feel so much better after a surf.
You always do. It's like someone told me you never feel worse after exercise or whatever. You know, you always feel better. And I think just getting in the ocean and being pummeled and being in the moment and trying to get out the back or whatever, and you know, accidentally getting on someone's wave and pop, you know, like it's just like you're learning those dynamics, and you know, and it's fun. But I think, like, somebody said to me, it doesn't matter how good you are or whatever, you know, you're a surfer. If you're getting out there and you're prioritizing it, like, and so like taking away that I'm a shit surfer or whatever, you know, or a bad surfer, it's like, I'm a surfer and I'm learning. And you look out there too, everybody falls off their board.
100%.
Everybody doesn't get a wave, even the best ones, you know.
Very true.
I've gone so into it. Like, I'm quite addicted at the moment. I've been watching the YSL, like the World Surf Champs.
Oh, right. You're like fully
into it. Like, I dream waves and stuff, which is pretty good.
Do you have like the camera apps on your phone? You're like checking the waves.
Yes, I've got Surfline.
Surfline, that's one.
Yeah, I'm always checking it and, you know, seeing if there's something surfable or if there's anybody else out there. It's quite, it's actually kind of like a regret I've got. I was like, I wish I did this earlier. Like, I had a bit of probably an unhealthy fear of sharks, and, you know, maybe and so I think it's quite cool to get over that fear and kind of that exposure therapy by just getting out there and giving it a go.
How did you first find surfing as like an outlet?
So I've been running with my friend Flo for the last year, and we'd keep each other accountable for a year and a half, and that's been awesome. And she's a surfer, and I knew that, but never really went out with her or anything. And then I watched this film, and it was about this woman who got into surfing because of her mum. And it just triggered me, going, I don't want my children to have fear of the ocean like I do. I grew up in the mountain. Like, I'd get pummeled by the waves all the time, I guess, as a kid. That's, you know, and I don't want them to have that fear, and I want to be really present and active with them. And, the things that my son was showing and my daughter was showing interest in, I was like, oh, I should just do this and just get into it. And if I start now, by the time that they're into it, like hopefully I can be out there with them. Yeah.
100%.
So we go out and do boogie boarding, and they
Cool.
come meet me after surf, and it's just really fun.
Epic. That is so cool.
I'm trying to get them on the board.
You should get them into surf lifesaving.
We're doing that little nippers.
Cool.
Yep.
Nice. Yeah.
So
My daughter does that as well.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's the best. We'll probably see you at some
Yeah,
surf
you will.
carnival.
Yeah.
Really keen as well just to hear your thoughts or experiences, and even maybe for other people, some advice around the topic of tall poppy syndrome. Especially as a female founder, I'll be really keen to hear your experiences. Is that something you have experienced over time? And if so, what is your advice for others?
I think over my journey as one of the founders of Shareises over the last 7 years, I've noticed a bit of a cultural change. I think that was very present when we first started. And I think that there has been a change in the mindset, especially from venture capitalists and VCs and stuff, in terms of actually we need to focus really on the founder experience, because if the founders are well and if they're doing the best they can, then ultimately the investment will pay off too. So there's been a switch from being a real investor focus to a founder focus, and I think that is paying dividends, and mostly because of the support network that's now around founders. Like I catch up every Friday morning with a bunch of other founders, and we share the load, and we've created such trust and connection with each other that we'll always back each other. And I think that there's more of that kind of collaborative and but I know that that's still out there. I know that tall poppy is still a thing. I guess I choose to where I want to hear information or whatever. And I have seen other companies and founders go through that, and it sucks. Yeah. And I'm just like, man, they're just trying so hard for Aotearoa and to put us on the global map. Yeah. Like, can't you just back that, you know, and go, good on you for giving it a good shot, you know?
Totally.
So I think there's still, it is still in our culture. And there's elements of it that's like the humble side, you know, and I think it's, you know, sometimes us founders, we need more support to, you know, really push ourselves and you know, it's like, humbleness is important, but it's also like, you know, and that we can do it through supporting each other more and going, 100%. Hey, look what they're doing. Yeah. You know,
like sometimes when you might be watching the All Blacks play and they've just put on this like glistening performance, world class. And then they get on the microphone, they're like, oh, yeah, proud of the boys, eh? It's like, show some emotion, like be proud of yourself, like really articulate that. And I feel like when you...
But there's something so gorgeous about that as a culture too, you know? Like there's something so like, there's a shadow side of it, but there's also a real strength. That is, and that, you know, does help us on a global stage in ways too. Not the tall poppy side, more that humbleness. I think I really like. I'm really proud of that too.
Yeah. You can, it's like works in both ways. I feel like sometimes it can be like a limiting factor in terms of this whole tall poppy syndrome, where the ambitions of others are too afraid to, you know, live up to those expectations because they're afraid of how other people will perceive them. Yeah. And you look at like American culture and like love or hate, you know, American culture, but I think what they can be really good at is like standing on the tallest tree or mountain and be like, look at me, I'm doing great, I'm proud of myself and who I am. Yeah. But it's totally just different culture shift for us, isn't it?
And I lived in the States from 10 to 14 years old. So I very much saw that, like that change in the culture. Like even from school, you know, when I was at school here, it was cool to be a fool. When I went there, as I said, a massive public school, 2,000 students, whatever, as soon as you walk in the classroom, as soon as you walk into the school, it had the A and the A and B honor roll. So if you were A's, you had your name there. And if you had A's and B's, you had your name there. And if you weren't on that list, you were an idiot, you're an outcast kind of thing. Like it was, there was definitely like a structural, and we just never would do that here, you know?
No, not at all.
But it was interesting because it definitely changed my mentality around schooling and the importance of achievement in that way, compared to, I guess, what I'd seen here when I was at like a real rural school of, you know, 70 kids and climbing trees and stuff.
Yeah. Man, that is crazy.
There's benefits of that too, you know?
100%. Can you speak, I think lots of people will be really interested just around what does it look like for a startup who is looking to access capital and investment? There was a funding round which you did, was it maybe a couple of years ago, where you guys raised up to $50 million. So can you just speak and maybe provide some insight around what does that process look like? Working with investors and actually attracting that amount of revenue and investment into your company.
Yeah, I've learned a lot about this. Like I did study finance, and I was interested in it. But when I first started doing capital raising, I was like, how does this work? Like, who is who, and what do they want, and what are these terms, and what's this safe note? And there's just a whole new world of jargon and kind of egos in some ways, and and motivations. And so really getting to the heart of all of that, like, or why do they want to be an investor? Like, actually, they just really care about paying it forward. Awesome. They really care about your purpose. Great. Or others are just like it's so fascinating. So, like, if anyone is on a capital raise journey and would like support or to talk to someone, like, please do reach out to me. I've learned a lot and happy as to share.
Yeah.
I think that the biggest, the things that we've stayed true to, which I think have been really beneficial to us, is, when you're looking for investors or people to put money into, you're looking for, like, other business partners in a way. And so thinking, cool, well, what could they bring to this party beyond money, and what can we, how could we also support them in a way. But you really want to make sure that they're a great fit, that they really care about your purpose and why you exist, that they, like, kind of passionate team members in that regard. And we've been really fortunate to have so many people actually support us and become shareholders in Shareises to enable us to grow. And also thinking, where do you want to be? What other countries do you want to be growing into? And then how can you get support and investment in those countries so you've got some foot in the door and those people that can support you in that regard. Look, I've learned heaps and I can't even boil it down at the moment.
So it's not just about the investment, it's also just about the leverage and the influence that the investors might have to help.
And that's sometimes the most important part.
Yeah,
it's like, who is on your, who you're bringing into this team, like they are representing you out there too. They have, the connections that you might need, or access to other capital pools that you might need in the future. And I think every raise we've done, you always think, what am I doing in this raise that's setting me up for the next? And is there anything that we're doing that's limiting our ability to raise in the future? So we've been really strong on everybody's on ordinary shares, on Shareises. There's no preferences and things like that, because we want to make sure that we're really investable in the future, but also really care about that kind of equality when it comes to the access to the kind of opportunities in the future too.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, it is such an alien topic to so many people who don't have experience in that place. I kind of envisage it as like Dragon's Den. Is it similar to that? Are you like pitching the product and there's people, like how does that work?
It can be, but it also cannot be. It can be like, it really depends on the vibe at the time out there in some ways. But if you're in an industry or you're doing something that people are frothing over, then you get to be the dragon. Like, you've got the choice of going, okay, who do I really want to bring in here? What's the best way of getting this capital? How much ownership do I want them to have now and in the future? And will that change my ability to, have control over the future of this company? So I think there's always those elements. So I wouldn't look at it as like, hey, please give me money. You want to be in a position of like, we have such a great story, we've got really incredible traction, or we're about to, and you're going to miss out if you're not part of this. That's when and that's the position you really ideally want to be in when you're raising.
Nice. Jump on the train, jump on the bandwagon. Nice. With Shareises, can you just please further explain, how do you currently differentiate Shareises against other competitors in the market? Like, what's that unique value proposition that you think Shareises provides that other investing platforms don't?
I think at the core of it is our purpose. Like, we really care about creating financial empowerment for everyone. We're the only ones that really care about giving someone with $5 and $5 million the same money opportunities. And that feeds through everything we do and the way we show up. We care deeply about creating a really lovable experience and being with somebody throughout their whole lifetime and beyond, and in terms of that intergenerational side of things too. So there's a real longevity in that, and the way that we think and really value people. I think
Mm.
we're a B Corp. We're we're
Awesome.
the first one that's in financial services here in Aotearoa.
Oh, really?
And we have been for years now, and I think that shows like the way that we really value purpose and profit, and think about our impact is so different to what's been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in terms of the other, like, I guess before Sharesies existed, what was the sort of status quo of the sort of financial service investment market? What did that look like?
People would somehow, if they were investors, had a relationship with some broker. There was a bit of phone calls. There was a bit of like, you had to kind of be in the know and had quite a bit of money. That did feel like, the minimum investment was kind of like $10,000.
Right.
The fees were kind of high. There's one kind of real online platform, but it's just graphs and numbers and not really like value the kind of digital experience. And it just like people were left out, and that's what we wanted to change. But also for those that were investing, we wanted to create the new way of investing for them, and that's what we continue to do.
How much of your strategy within Sharesies is also around education, like around financial literacy and sort of breaking down jargon so it's understandable? Is that like a key strategic approach that you guys drive?
I mean, we think the best way of learning is by doing, and that's why we wanted to make sure there was no minimum, so people could learn with amounts that they could afford and kind of build that over time. And then the education side is crucial. We've done so much in that space, and we have from day one, like always over invested in it, and we'll continue to in terms of blogs and podcasts and events and speaking at things and just really making sure, and the way that we've designed our product. But it's been fascinating in the recent year how all of that mahi, all of that work, all of that content we've created has now become this incredible competitive moat in a way, because now we've been able to create large language models off our data and off all of that content we've created, which now enables us to support customers even faster through this bot whanau we've got, which it's all, it's been trained on all of our data set and now can respond to customers really quickly if they've got a query. They can always talk to someone and always get a personal touch, but people are loving it. We've only rolled that out start of this year or late last year, and people are just like, this is the best bot I've ever dealt with, because making sure it's really clear. But because best customer care is when and investor care is when it's speedy and it's accurate and people can just take that action and not feel like they're having to wait around. And so it's incredible actually how all of that work that we've done now has also got this other really cool advantage.
Yeah. What's the name of the chatbot?
whanau.
whanau.
Yeah.
I feel like it needs like a human name.
I know. We have done that in the past, but we also, I don't think it really comes across to you as whanau, but it's in our app, and you can, and we make sure it's really clear, and it's got quite a cool tone, and it's quite fun.
That's awesome. In terms of how many users Sharesies has at the moment, is it 500,000, 600,000?
650,000.
Nice, amazing. And in terms of demographics, what is the age group that makes up the most of that number? Yeah,
so we've got 650,000 people who have signed up to Sharesies across Australia and New Zealand. Like I said earlier, they're from between 0 and 97 years old. We've got pretty good gender equality on our platform too. And they're all across the motu, like about 40% are in the regions in Aotearoa. We have... what was the other question you asked about?
Demographic. Just putting you on the spot.
No, not at all. So about 67 or 70%-ish of our users are under 40. And we've got a bunch of kids. Like, honestly, it's such a spectrum, like I said. So
it's cool. Super diverse, eh?
Yeah.
We're recording this in April. Last month, you had a record month at Sharesies. Over, was it $500 million invested, just under?
Yeah.
What does keen to just pick your brain around why March was such a crazy month for Sharesies investors, and what sort of trends might be behind that figure.
You're so well researched, eh? It's great. March was a massive month, and there's a bunch of things behind it. one, at a base level, is we've moved into being a wealth app. So we now provide access to KiwiSaver and Save too, along with investing. And so we're starting to be the place where the majority of people's wealth is, and they're starting to, build that trust and understanding and experience. And so that's kind of coming over. In terms of on the investing side, there's been a few changes in dynamics. Interest rates are starting, or the OCR is starting to be held steady a bit more. So people are inflation's starting to come down, which means that there's potentially more appetite for investing and taking on more risk because you're hoping for a higher return. And then also there's been a massive wave in microcomputing and AI, and people are really interested in that too. And so we've seen some Australian companies, American companies really take off. And so a lot of investment kind of flowing that way too.
Yep. Yeah, super interesting, eh? And that's, is it Nvidia? That's like...
NVIDIA.
NVIDIA. Yeah. Okay, I think I've ever actually properly said it before. Yeah, wow, interesting. When it comes to the like personal story component, Brooke, what have been some of the most impactful personal stories of maybe either users or even employees or people that you might know of from using the Sharesies app, and how that has, maybe enabled them to have a better life and pathway? Do any stand out to you?
I've got a bunch. I'll rattle off a few. One was super fascinating and really early on in Sharesies' journey. It was it was with this quite wealthy woman, and she was like, I've always used a broker, I've always used fund managers, and they've always talked to me in a way like I wouldn't know, and like they're just going to be better at it than me. And I've never felt like I could have control or confidence. And now I do. Like, I feel like I'm actually learning in my, she was in her 70s, and she's like, I now feel like I can have an understanding of my wealth. And I found that really fascinating because I didn't really have that perception or that kind of insight.
Yeah.
There's somebody else who who sent us a beautiful message, who was in a domestic violence relationship, and she needed to start building her strength and her financial abilities so that she could escape with her child. And through Sharesies, she was able to siphon money away and get to a point where she was able to exit that relationship and support her and her son. And she's just, being able to really thrive since then. Like that, those stories really impact me. The others where, there's these whanau sitting around a table, and now they're talking about what's happening in the economy with their children, and and then their children are asking really interesting questions, and it's like this, they're learning together. It's something that has been so opaque and so like not part of our conversations, and I'm so excited for the future created there. Honestly, I am empowered and like inspired by so many stories I get to hear every day on how just having access to Sharesies, or even just having now access to information around money and being able to create the opportunities and pathways that they want in their lives and then for their communities. I'm just, it drives me every day.
It's always been such a like sort of taboo subject, just like finances in general. It's not something you get taught about at school. If your parents aren't, financially got a relative knowledge base, it's something you just never talk about with your parents. And I think that's really because there hasn't been that like shared platform or portal, so you can, the Venn diagram, so the two circles sort of meet in the middle. And I feel like Sharesies can sort of provide that platform where you're on the same level as if you're 16 and your parents or your uncle or the rich millionaire who lives down the road. So it's super exciting.
Thank you.
I'm really keen as well, Brooke, just to touch on, I guess, your own sort of personal and professional development. Through your career and scaling and launching Sharesies, there's been like remarkable growth so far. And with that comes so much responsibility and pressure that gets put on yourself as an individual, but also as a leader within the company. So it's really keen to hear your experience. How has that process been from, now running a organization that has over 200 employees, 300 employees?
156.
Okay, 156. So keen to understand like what parts you've had to really sort of step up on throughout that whole process.
So one thing we always had a kind of a mantra about is we always wanted to be ourselves growing ahead of Sharesies. hadn't been like CEOs of a fintech before, you know. Now we have for 7 years and learned a bunch, but we're always like, okay, what's Sharesies' next stage? Where do I need to be? How do I, you know, what's my gaps, or where do I leverage my strengths more and make sure the team are, you know, like stepping into the areas that might be becoming open. And I think we're so self-critical in that regard, but in a you know, in a healthy, motivating way.
Yep.
I think Layden, Sonia and I, we give each other feedback all the time, and we're always like kind of pushing each other in a friendly way. And I think that's really, you know, you don't want to, we just want to chase remarkable. It's one of our values, and it's something that's really intrinsic in us.
Chase remarkable,
you know, so always put the cherry on top. And it's knowing it's always a chase. Like chase is active, right? It's like you know, you never reach it, you know, which is kind of cool too, because it's like, and that's life, like you're perpetually learning and developing. And so that's a really important part for us, and we continue to have that. And I think we get a lot of insight too from others who have been there, done that, or a few steps ahead of us, or, you know, through our peers and support, and also the team, you know, they make it, I'm constantly learning and developing, I think.
Because it must be just insane to have an idea, grow that idea, and now have 150 people that, you know, sort of, you know, look up to you. You got to lead them, make really important decisions. So it must just happen so quick for you. So like thinking back, would you know, if 7 years ago I would to say to you, Brooke, you know, Shareises is now going to grow into a $500 million company, growing into Australia, and there'll be 150 plus employees. What would your reaction have been then? If I was the genie from the future.
Yeah, so I guess remember how I said that we're super optimistic and we need that black hat to pull, you know, I'd be like, oh, and? You know what I mean? Like, you know, like, let's go. Like, so now what? You know, like, I think, like, unfortunately, that's how we think in a way, but I think that's also what drives us, you know? It's like, cool, well, you've got more impact to have there, you know, like, there's a lot more to do. And so I think, you know, there's importance to celebrate the wins over time. But really, that's the team's wins. You know, they're doing all the hard mahi, and it's like us to make sure that we're paving that path forward and creating, really making sure that purpose comes to life, and there's so much more to do.
I love that. So if I would have asked that to you or said that to you 7 years ago, it would have been, and what? Like,
I'm very surprised what I'd say. Yeah, I'd be like, oh, I've got a lot more to do than that, you know? Like, I think,
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Conscious of time as well, so I'm keen to just ask, what is your advice for young people who might be interested in business, might have a sort of entrepreneurial little tick or an idea? What's your advice for young people in New Zealand at the moment?
It goes back to what you were saying in terms of people's initial reaction, that we've had it and we continue to have it, and you'll get it too, most likely, which is, you know, I said I wanted to get into surfing, you know, and I go out and they're like, oh, isn't it cold out there? You know, don't get, you know, or, you know, you want to start, she's like, oh, isn't that going to be hard? Don't you have a lot of regulation? You'll need a lot of money to make that happen. Like, there's always that kind of, that first reaction from people, which is like, oh, you know?
Yeah.
So find your yes people, you know, like, what if that's possible, you know? And unfortunately for some people, they don't know that that's their reaction, you know, and I'm scared. I've done it to people before. I'm like, no, I don't want to ever give people that energy, you know? But I think that you've got to find a way to go, yep, that's one, you know, risk or concern, but here's the reasons why, you know, and I think when you're really connected to your why and you really care, and it's like, feels like it just drives you, and that passion, and you talk to people or you do some research and that just motivates you even more, you'll have just such strong strength to be able to execute on and stay true to what you want to create. So I think find your yes people, and you know, don't get too disheartened by all of those knocks, because they're going to perpetually come, and you just got to be, you know, be really strong in terms of the direction you want and the future you're wanting to create.
I like that. Find your yes people, and it is so easy to fall into the rhetoric where you're maybe talking about something and then the reaction is relatively negative or hesitant, and you can start having that own psyche. So, and
learn from those too. Like, I wonder, you know, there's sometimes insights in that, but when you're starting, you really need some yes people around you to keep that energy and that momentum, breeding momentum.
100%. Brooke, before we move to some quickfire questions, where can people keep in touch with you, your mahi, and get involved with Sharesies?
Yeah, so you can get Sharesies in the app stores or check it out online, sharesies.com. You can get in touch with me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty private on other social channels. And yeah, my email is brooke@sharesies.com if anyone wants to reach out.
Cool. Awesome. And we'll chuck some links in the description below where you can check out Sharesies too. Awesome. Brooke, what brings you true happiness?
My children.
Advice you wish you knew about when you were younger?
I'm not quick on this one, am I? Advice I wish. Stay true to you.
What does legacy mean to you?
The way that people feel and communicate about you and the impact you've had once you've gone.
If you could change one thing in New Zealand, what would this be?
Access to financial capability and opportunities.
And lastly, what do you believe is the main thing that is holding back young people in New Zealand?
I honestly think the generations coming through have so much opportunity in front of them. And you've got access to financial knowledge now. You've got social media at your fingertips and stuff. And it's like, I guess my one thing is like, how do they stay playful and present in the natural environment too? I think, and don't get too caught up in the online world. And that's probably the one thing that I'd be keeping the balance on.
No more doom scrolling on TikTok.
Yeah, boring. Yeah.
Awesome. And we'll finish with a quote from Warren Buffett. Someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. Brooke, thank you.
Ka kite, thank you.
Cheers.